I want to address the whole culture vulture thing because something interesting just happened recently. Did you ever watch the Boondocks, the Booty Warrior episode?
I did a couple voiceover sessions for it, but I never really watched it.
It was this guy named, it was based on this character named Fleece Johnson. It was this guy that was a rapist in prison. But it's like, booty is more important than water.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that clip. That guy, yeah.
He's out of prison now. His name is Fleece Johnson. He did a bunch of years in prison. He's out. And we were offered that interview. We actually had an interview set up. And we were going to do it. And me being, listen, I was a character in the Boondocks as well. I'm a Boondocks super fan. And, this whole thing played out in the Boondocks. He was a character and everything else like that. It was funny, whatever else. And I always kind of assumed that, okay, this guy was just playing a role. He's trying to scare kids, whatever else. But in the process of actually going through the research and the notes, I'm realizing that this guy actually is a serial prison rapist. He actually was convicted in prison for raping men. And I just said, I'm not doing this interview, man. I'm not going to give a male rapist, a gay rapist, a platform. Like, I just don't want this in my catalog. I don't want to have this conversation. You know what I'm saying? And I know it would get millions of views, right? So if I was a culture vulture, I would say, fuck it. It's all about the money.
Well, if that was your moral ground,
that was my moral ground. And I just said, I'm not going to do
it. But if you chose to do the interview, I wouldn't necessarily look at it that way. I mean, that's just journalistic. You know what I'm saying? Like if you look at would Barbara Walters have done an interview that spicy? Would I don't know, once upon a time ago, Dan Rather have done an interview with some sort of third world dictator / murderer? Maybe so.
Listen,
in terms of journalistic integrity and
I got you.
Adding to your resume,
I got you.
I wouldn't shit on you for that.
I got you. And we all have a line. You know what I'm saying? Now listen, if this was, I don't know, the president of some country that got accused of rape and it's like, there's a bigger story here, then yeah, I get it. But at the end of the day, I just started thinking about the situation, about like, listen, like how many young men ended up going to prison because they, played around with a gun or did something stupid. They got 6 months in prison in Kentucky. They were going to just do their time, come out and just go back to society and go to college. And then this guy comes along and they get raped by this man in prison, probably repeatedly. Think about what that did to their lives. You know what I'm saying? Having to deal with that, and this guy is proud of it. You know what I mean? Like, and I was just like, rapists, pedophiles, that type of thing. I just said, nah, I'm cool. You know what I mean? When it comes to, and people criticize, oh, well, you interviewed Sammy the Bull. He was a murderer. Well, he was killing other soldiers. They were in a war. You know what I mean? This wasn't like a serial killer that was out there like sniping people, from a roof, because he was bored one day. Like,
Well, and just for the record, if we're being technical, that example you used about, this could be some kid in jail who had a gun. He could have been a rapist and he got raped by a rapist.
Could have been.
So he's a soldier.
Could have been. Yeah. I mean, listen, you can look at it all different types of ways.
Listen, you stood on what you stood on.
I stood on what I stood on.
And that's the bottom line.
And I think that a lot of times.
But I'm just saying, you don't know.
I don't know. But this was the line that I put in the sand and I said, something? I'm not going to do this interview. I'm not going to feel right about myself interviewing this guy about essentially being a rapist. Aries Spears, man, always a pleasure.
And you know what time it is now. You know what I got to do right now, right?
You're going to plug your podcast.
Spears and Steinberg. Mm-hmm. It's the podcast. DM me on my Instagram. I will send you the links. Also subscribe on our YouTube channel, Spearsberg Pod. Listen any way you want. I always suggest listen from the beginning, go in order, binge if you got to. Comedically, it makes sense. The tags, the callbacks, the stories, the impressions. Appreciate you. Thank you, Vlad. Spears and Steinberg. Subscribe to the podcast.
Peace.